Trent Dilfer is a quarterback analyst. He joins us on the show regularly to talk about quarterbacking. He was an ESPN analyst talking about quarterbacking. He's been a coach for the last couple of years. Obviously, quarterback. He's worked in Elite 11 camps. He's worked at all types of quarterback camps. This is a guy that you would think understands, QB greatness, no matter what era it is. He's being employed to coach quarterbacking to this generation. So this was kind of an interesting, concept. Like, who says that what Tom Brady has done or Aaron Rodgers has done is not impressive? And so on the surface, you're like, what is Trent Dilfer talking about? Pat Boyle, you hear this and you shake your head. What do you think Dilfer is talking about here?
He just sounds like a bitter old man that feels like if he played in this era, that he would have been an elite quarterback, that he would have been a multi-time All-Pro, that he would have been a Hall of Famer. And I don't think he understands that the quarterbacks he played with would have been that much better. Even that much better than him had he played in an era like this where you can't hit the quarterback. Like, it's not like every other quarterback he was playing with in the NFL wasn't getting hit, and those rules didn't apply to him and Baltimore or wherever he was playing. So he just sounds extremely bitter, and it sounds like, if you're trying to take away the success from a running quarterback because that wasn't, that just wasn't in the game of football back then, I still think that's crazy, but I can at least understand it. But to take away from the greatness of Brady, who, by the way, played 20 years ago, right, when Dilfer was still playing, who is criticizing Rodgers, who has been playing for 15-plus years. He just sounds jealous. He sounds bitter. And I don't know what kind of lunatics were in the crowd when he was speaking. Yeah, Trent. It sounds like a bunch of idiots.
Well, my guess is, I don't know this because I haven't seen the full footage yet, but my guess is this was probably a Q&A done in Baltimore. And so he's talking about the 2000 Ravens, and anytime you take a shot at Brady, Ravens fans are like, yeah, Brady sucks. So he's playing to the crowd there a little bit. But so you think that this is him trying to suggest what Brady and Rodgers and anybody's doing today isn't that impressive because if I would have played today, I would have been better.
Yeah, and that's stupid. That's like classic bitter old man yells at cloud. Same thing like, if you hear any NBA player from the 80s or the 90s, I would have scored 40 points a game if I played in this era because you can't foul anybody, you can't touch anybody. Okay, yes, but everybody that you played with also would have been scoring that much more points, so you still wouldn't have been that much better. Your stats might have just been a little better. So is that what you're angry about, Trent?
So I think Dilfer's point is an interesting one. It's something that we kind of take for granted. I don't know if it even needs to be said. But he loses credibility when he says what Tom Brady has done or Aaron Rodgers has done is not impressive. There is a point to be made that the job of the quarterback today, just in terms of not having to get hit and not having to worry about, all the physicality of previous generations, is a huge benefit. I mean, Brady probably can't play. Well, he definitely can't play until he's 46 years old if he's playing in a previous generation. He would just take too much abuse. It's the perfect era now and probably going forward to where a guy can play for a really long time because you're just really not allowed to hit a guy. We've seen all these questionable flags on the quarterback, all these questionable roughing the passer calls. And so these guys are worried about doing anything. I mean, you can't land on top of them. You can't hit them too low. You can't hit them too high. You can't hit them in the chest. You can't do anything without worrying about hurting them. So it gives, and Brady's talked about this as well, it gives a quarterback this added level of invincibility. He goes out there, doesn't have to worry about that type of stuff. So Dilfer's point there is fair. A quarterback today does not have to live with the same type of hesitation or fear he may have had to in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 60s, certainly before that. Where you lose any credibility, though, is to say what Tom Brady has done is not impressive. I mean, because Brady's greatness does not rely only on passing statistics, on only the fact that he's thrown for a lot of yards. It exists because of his winning, which, to your point, Pat, every quarterback he plays against has the same rules afforded them, by and large. I mean, does Brady get more calls? Maybe. But it's not like when he beats teams in AFC championship games or the Super Bowl, the other quarterback isn't also protected to a certain degree, to a large degree. Brady's greatness is that every time the game was on the line, he seemed to rise to the occasion. He got better. That in all these incredibly pressurized situations, Tom Brady was able to somehow navigate that as though it wasn't that big a deal. I was just watching a number of highlights from the Falcons comeback into the Super Bowl because there was the anniversary of that. And while undoubtedly the Falcons bent over backwards to allow the Patriots to have that door swung wide open for them, when you rewatch that, you can't believe how the Falcons collapsed. I mean, they had to actually like actively gift multiple opportunities to Tom Brady, but Brady took them, and in the moment, he was completely confident and completely in rhythm and completely at purpose with what had to be done. And you're facing a 25-point deficit, and every throw is crucial. And Brady just had the ability to execute, and he did that so many times. So you just simply can't say what Brady's done is unimpressive, that he's not impressed, because that's just insanity. It's like Sammy Baugh from above looks down and is like, no, that's really impressive what Tom Brady is doing. I mean, there's just no way that Joe Montana looks at Tom Brady and says that's not impressive. I'm sure Montana goes, I'd love to play in today's rules. I'm sure Montana or Marino or Elway would love to play in this day and age where they didn't have to take the abuse that they did, but none of them look at Tom Brady and say that's not impressive.